Okay, boxing fans, right now we're talking about the appetizer to the main event. I'm here with the chef, and I'm here with Paul, chef from Boxing in the Kitchen. So, chef, let's talk. Thurman Bundu, the appetizer to Khan Alexander.
Yeah, this is a good fight, especially for Keith Thurman because Bundu is undefeated. I don't know why it's taken him so long. He's now 40 years old, and he's been fighting a long time. It's not as if he's 40 years old. I mean, he's been fighting for the best part of a decade. Okay, he was a late bloomer, I suppose, but yeah, he's finally getting the sort of fights that he deserves. He's beaten loads of British fighters, loads of fighters who fight across Europe. He's a top European fighter, and now Thurman, he's giving him a shot at his WBA nonsense bullcrap title. But yeah, it's a good fight for both guys because it finally allows Bundu a chance to make a name for himself, which I think he'll make a name for himself, but he won't win. And Thurman, it gives him another decent win on his record.
Yeah, suppose so. Win? You see, you're not even going to consider.
Yeah, not even fucking around.
Not fucking around today. He's went straight from the appetizer to the flaming dessert. Okay, we'll go over. First question for you, Ryan. First question. That wasn't exactly a question. That was just your thoughts. So, chef, Bundu is unknown for most Americans. What can you tell me about Bundu? Go on, give us a whole spiel about Bundu.
Well, I've only seen Bundu a few times, and he's a tough competitor. He gave Frankie Gavin the fight of his career when Gavin, I don't think he was a heavy favourite, but he was a favourite nonetheless. Frankie Gavin always starts as favourite in his fights. He hasn't really stepped up much. But yeah, Bundu is I think you'd call him a boxer puncher, but he can mix it up. If you watched his fight against Frankie Gavin, he's a big bloke. I mean, for a light welterweight, I mean, he is big.
Welterweight.
Yeah, a big welterweight. I mean, yeah, Thurman is going to have his work cut out trying to stop him. He goes to the body well. He's a pressure fighter, although I'd still think I'd say he's a boxer puncher, but he's good at pressuring. Yeah, like I said, watch his fight with Frankie Gavin because I mean he was really doing a number on him at parts of that fight. I think Thurman's best attribute in this fight is going to be the fact that he's so much. Well, I don't know because before we started recording this, I thought Thurman was a lot taller than him, but it turns out he's only an inch taller than him. But I'd say he's probably taller than that. So sometimes they do get it wrong on BoxRec. But I think his height and reach is going to be going to play a big part in this fight for Thurman.
Yeah. So, I just want to add in something for you there, Ryan, as well. He also fought Lee Purdy, and if you go back to the main event, Devin Alexander stopped Lee Purdy, but Leonard Bundu stopped Lee Purdy actually really better and retired Lee Purdy.
Yeah.
What's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So that's definitely up for talking about. We've got a problem with Paul's mic, so we'll just go straight to the next question instead, chef. So,
okay.
Thurman's been inactive for a year. Will that hurt him in this fight?
Well, at 40 years old, you would have thought Bundu would be slowing down. Now, I don't know why it took Bundu until he was like 30 years old to turn pro. I imagine Did he have a long amateur career, maybe? I'm not exactly sure.
He did fight for the Italian national squad, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, so I don't know why it took him so long to turn late, but he's a young 40. He's a Vladimir Klitschko 40. He's a Bernard Hopkins 40. He's a young bloke at 40. But, yeah, I think that's going to, not necessarily play in Keith Thurman's hand, because even though he's like 15 years younger, he's still going to be fighting a guy who has, confidence, stamina in abundance. He's going to be well up for this fight because it will be his first and final chance to make a name for himself on the world scene. Because if he loses at 40, he's got to rebuild himself all over again. So I think this is his first chance on the world scene and only chance. So he's going to be well up for it. And I think even just going the distance is going to be an accomplishment for Bundu. But yeah, I don't think that Thurman being out of the ring for nearly a year, and I think that's going to hurt him a little bit because Bundu has got that, he's got that stamina, he's got all the rounds, he's got the experience and all that.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing that we must look at is the chance he could be ring rusty, because for most of the time in his career, he's been, a fast-moving guy. Thurman. He's had a lot of fights, he's had quite a lot of fights a year, and he's just burst onto the scene. The injury and the inactivity he's had this year may hurt him a little. I'm not saying he's going to lose. I'm just saying he may not impress people for the quickest instance, or maybe we're totally wrong. Who knows? But Paul's back now, so Paul, we'll go straight back to the first question, and we'll ask you the both of them. So we're giving you a two-piece combo here. Firstly, Bundu is unknown for most Americans. What can you tell us about Bundu?
As Ryan said, he's getting up there in age, but he certainly doesn't fight like someone who's 40. He fights like someone who's 25 because he's got such a great work rate. Yeah, he throws what is it, close to 1,000 punches a fight on average, something like that. He throws a lot of shots. If you look at his record, you wouldn't think he's got great power because he's got 31 wins and only 11 knockouts. But I was looking at his record before, and 4 of his last 6 fights have all been stoppages, and he came very, very close to stopping Frankie Gavin.
Yeah,
I think he knocked him down.
He probably should have stopped Frankie Gavin. I mean,
yeah.
he was unlucky not to.
Yeah, and you'd have to say his last few fights have been where he's been stepping up. So maybe he's got better power than his record suggests. Maybe he has got power, he just hasn't got much of a killer instinct. That's the problem, because there's certain fighters who that applies to.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Yeah, he's going to be someone. He's not going to be someone who freezes or anything like that. I think he's a very, very strong mental guy. He came over to fight Lee Purdy in his backyard and pretty much just beat him up for 12 rounds. Didn't freeze. Came over to Frankie Gavin's backyard in Birmingham and didn't exactly beat Frankie Gavin up as badly as he did Purdy, but he still beat him without a doubt. And he must be sky high on confidence. He's been the away fighter almost all his career. He's undefeated. He's not going to be phased going over to America and taking on a big name like Thurman. He's going to go over there and think, yeah, this is my bread and butter. This is what I do. I go over and I upset the odds and I make a name for myself. So he's going to come here. He's going to get in Thurman's face. He's going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at him. And it should be a really good fight. He's not going to be one of these guys who the Americans see all the time, where he goes over and he just freezes and they get knocked out in a couple of rounds.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'll just give you a quick rundown of his amateur career as well, which I think is worth talking about. He has been to the Olympics in 2000 as a welterweight, and he did it all right. He had 2 fights in there and lost his second fight to Daniel Geale, who we know as a world champion. So at middleweight, so that's worth talking about. So he's shows you about that. He's got gold medals almost every single year in Italy in their championships. He's went to the world championships once, twice, 3 times I think, and he got a bronze actually in the Houston World Championships in the USA at welterweight. So that's worth talking about. So he's going to go over there and give it a good go. So he's a good fighter. People just because they don't know him are showing their ignorance pretty much. Really. So we'll move on from that one. Thurman's been inactive this year. Will that hurt him, Paul?
Possibly, because before this year he was very active, as you were saying. I think he had 6 fights in 2 years. He had 3 fights in 2012 and he had 3 fights in 2013. And he's had, 1 fight so far this year and then 1 more right at the end. It could possibly hurt him, but he has had layoffs before. I was looking at his record. I think he went well over a year without fighting once before. He fought Fabio Medina in November 2010 and beat him, and then he didn't fight again till early 2012 when he came back and fought a journeyman. So he has had layouts before. He's been able to handle it before. Maybe he's just kept. He looks like a guy who you don't ever hear stories about him going off and putting weight on and not living the lifestyle like a lot of fighters do when they're not actively fighting. So Thurman will have probably stayed in the gym. He won't have got bored. He won't have got restless. He won't have gotten fat. It could possibly hurt him, but I don't think it will make any massive difference. No, it'll only have affected him in the sense that maybe he's just a bit rusty at the start of the fight, but he'll soon shake off that rust and get going.
Yeah. So we'll go back to Chef right now. Chef, do you think the winner of this fight will get a legitimate world title shot next up?
Well, yeah, I think they will. But it depends on who, on schedules and all of that. I mean, who has got the WBA welterweight title now?
Floyd Mayweather, didn't
it? So we know that that's not going to happen because he won't fight. Yeah, you're right. It is him. He won't fight Bundu. There's no need for him to, and I don't think Bundu would deserve a shot against him anyway. Mayweather is, so far elite that he only fights, other money-making fights. And Thurman, I don't think Mayweather touches Thurman in a million years. I think he'd throw the title away. So I think that what might happen is Mayweather drops the title. So if Mayweather drops the WBA title, that makes sense because the winner of this will be the interim champ. Otherwise, maybe a fight against somebody like Kell Brook. He's got the IBF title, so something like that. But you know what these orgs are like. If Thurman is highly ranked with the WBA, the IBF might not consider him worthy of fighting for their title. So there's a lot of politics. But anyway, yeah, I think one of them will get a title shot. But if I was to bet on it, I'd say it'll be a vacant title, like maybe a vacant WBA.
Yeah, and you don't think he's got any chance fighting for the WBO?
Who's got the WBO?
Pacquiao.
Oh, Pacquiao. Oh, no chance.
No chance. What about you, Paul? Will the winner of this get a legitimate world title shot next?
Yeah, as Ryan said, if they get one, it'll probably just be a vacant title because whose schedule's open? Mayweather's got the WBA and the WBC, I think, hasn't he?
Correct.
Yeah, he's not going to fight the winner, obviously not. And the winner's not going to fight Pacquiao either because he's at top rank, and Heyman's not going to let one of his guys fight a top rank fighter. And maybe Kell Brook might fight them. I don't know. I think Kell Brook's coming back in March or April. Yeah, it's possible that maybe Kell Brook might fancy fighting the winner, but I wouldn't bet on it personally. I think the winner is just going to fight for one of those vacant belts that Mayweather just decides to dump, if he does dump them. And let's just imagine for a second he doesn't dump them and he decides to keep hold of them. I think if the winner doesn't fight for the world title, I don't think anyone would be surprised because Al Heyman has messed Thurman around for ages now. He's not stepped him up and let him have a big fight. And with Bundu, I know Bundu signed to Heyman now as well, but what would be the point in Heyman getting behind Bundu at his age? He's not going to be knocking the doors down for Bundu to get him a world title fight, even if he wins. So I think the winner probably will fight for one, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if they don't.
Yeah, we'll move on. Chef, is Bundu the best opponent for Thurman?
Well, he's not the best opponent for him.
Is he his best opponent to date?
Oh, is he his best opponent? Probably not best because Thurman has beaten Diego Chavez, who was undefeated, and he's a powerful puncher. He's a dangerous opponent. Carlos Quintana, he's got all the experience in the world. And he also beat Jesus Soto Crass, who's always a tough fighter. But then I suppose he's a different opponent. He's a guy who maybe he's not his best. Oh, and Julio Diaz, he's always willing to give you a tough fight. So he might not be his best opponent, but it will definitely be something that he might not be used to. It'll be a different sort of challenge. Bundu is he's a aggressive fighter. He can fight on the back foot, although he's not that good at it. He likes to fight on the front foot. He does throw a lot of punches. He's got really good stamina. So he's going to be a tough cookie for Thurman to break down. So I can see him having a lot of trouble with him early on and trying to sort of force a stoppage late on. But it might end up being a fight like the one against Jan Zadek. It might end up going the distance. But I think it's an intriguing contest.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Chef. So, Paulos, what are we thinking about Bundu? Is he his best opponent?
I think you could definitely say he is. personally, because I think Bundu's very underrated. Because, as we've said, because he's took so long for people to know him, because he's not really been on the scene much, people just assume he's no good. But anyone who has seen him sees that he's very, very good.
Yeah.
Bundu is the European champion. He's the best European fighter at 147, apart from Kell Brook.
Yeah.
I wouldn't personally, but maybe some people might even pick him to beat Kell Brook. I wouldn't, but I know some people who would, because Bundu is very, very good. Whereas Thurman, it's not his fault, but he's not really for the creme de la creme of the welterweight division, has he? Thurman's not got the fights that he should have had, because Al Heyman's just messed him around. He's fought a few decent opponents, as Ryan listed them off. A few respectable guys, but he's not beaten anyone in the top 10. In my opinion, he hasn't got a signature win as of yet. And Bundu, in my opinion, gives anyone in the division, apart from maybe the top 3 or 4, he gives anyone in the division a good, hard run for the money, possibly even beats them. There's only 3 or 4 guys in the whole division who I would pick. Yeah, that guy definitely beats Bundu. And people might think that's crazy, like any Americans who thinking, who is this Bundu guy? Why are they saying he's this good when I've never heard of him? He's just, it's took, as we've said, I don't know why he's took so long to get to the world scene or get around the world scene, but he's very, very good. He beats up undefeated fighters. He's not he's got a really good style to watch.
And he travels. He's not afraid.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to travel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to add a few things to that, Paul. I hope you're done. So I just want to add a few things. Bundu is a good opponent, and if you just look through a few of the other guys' opponents, Thurman's opponents, there's a few smoke and mirrors tricks there. Jan Zabek had his half a foot in retirement. Julio Diaz had half a foot in retirement. In fact, he retired straight after the fight. What's the other guy called? Soto Carras. That was a good win for him. That's the only one that I'm really like. Bundu or Soto Carras, Bundu or Soto Carras, Bundu or Soto Carras. But at the end of the day, he's never beat anyone. He's never really beat anyone. I don't think. Has he ever beat anyone? Anyone good?
He's one of those guys who, off the top of my head, I can't remember who's beaten actually.
Yeah,
but
I know. He's a gatekeeper.
Yeah, he's a gatekeeper.
Exactly. And then who else is there? There's some other guy who's on my tongue, but I can't get him out. Chavez, the undefeated dude, but he fought no one. If anyone starts boxing tomorrow, they're undefeated. Don't mean shit. Who's he beat? He didn't beat no one, and now he's just known for losing. So, I mean, literally, he went to the Rios fight, lost, got disqualified, and he'd saved it too, and now he's going to go to the Bradley fight and lose. You know what I mean? So, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit about him, really? So, but, Bundu's going to be his best opponent, and I'll give him great props if Thurman beats Bundu, and I'll give Bundu great props if he beats Thurman. Either way, the winner can go somewhere. We'll go back to Chef. Where does the winner and loser go from here? Keep it quick.
Where does the winner go? Well, I think that they'll either fight for a vacant title if Mayweather vacates it, because there's no way Mayweather fights either of these. Doesn't want any part of Keith Thurman, and Bundu isn't famous enough for Mayweather to fight. So it will either be that or IBF title against Kell Brook if the politics allow.
Yeah,
that's where the winner goes.
Thanks, Chef. What about you, Paulie?
The winner. Hello, I'm here.
Good man.
The winner will probably fight for one of Mayweather's vacated belts if he vacates them, and they'll probably fight another Golden Boy welterweight who's kind of sniffing around doing nothing. Guerrero or Porter. They'll probably fight either one of those two for a vacant belt. I'd love to see the winner fight Kell Brook, but it's not terribly realistic, is it?
No.
So, no. I think the winner will fight for a vacant belt, and it will probably be against some other top 10 guy who is signed to Golden Boy and currently doesn't have anything to do.
Yeah. Okay. Last question, and this one, we'll probably know more about this, and we'll revisit this after the fight. Should Bundu have signed with Al Heyman, Chef?
Well, I don't know. Why?
Well, do you think it was a good idea?
Oh, he did. What? He has signed for him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Well, I think that it's always bad that fighters are fighting for Al Heyman. He's notorious for making easy fights, making his fighters look good in the ring, not giving them proper challenges. So I think it's always bad if fighters sign for Al Heyman, but they must be doing it for financial reasons.
Yeah. What about you, Paul? Do you think he should have signed for Al Heyman?
Bundu.
Yep.
Well, yeah, really. I know Al Heyman's messed a lot of fighters like Thurman around, but if Bundu hadn't signed for him, what else would he be doing? Probably be having a rematch.
I'll tell you exactly what he'd be doing.
Have a rematch with Gavin.
No. Probably
Yeah.
not.
No, Warren would have brought him back over, man.
No. He could have been
What would you think he'd be doing then?
He could have been fighting for the world title against Kelbrook.
No, I don't think so.
He was mandatory. He was mandatory.
Well, wasn't he supposed to have like an eliminator against Jojo Dan?
Well, it was either him or Jojo Dan, and who was going to win that? You think Jojo Dan's gonna pull the wool over all of our eyes and just do something amazing
Yeah.
for the first time in his career ever? The same guy who lost twice to Flaming.
Let's not make it. Okay, let's not make it the Bash Jojo Dan video, but yeah, if he hadn't have signed with Heyman, he probably would have had that eliminator, or Warren would have offered him a fortune, and he'd have given the eliminator up and gone back and rematched Gavin. He wouldn't be fighting on a big card like this against a big name fighter. No way. So it's only benefited him signing with Heyman. I know Heyman's, the Voldemort of boxing, but you can't knock him for what he's done with Bundu. He hasn't done wrong by Bundu yet.
Well, like I said, we'll come back to this after the fight, because if Bundu loses, he's probably made a bad decision. I would say Bundu, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's give our predictions, Chef. Come on, Chef.
I think Keith Thurman wins a unanimous decision. It could be a late stoppage, but I think unanimous decision, like the fight against Zavich. I think Bundu, the way that he loses, if he does, is he's going to knacker himself out, because he is going to be relentless from the first bell, and Thurman is going to fight on the back foot, using his jab a lot, counter punching, and what Bundu is probably going to take a lot of punches throughout the fight. And in fights like that, by the end of it, Bundu might be completely punched out, completely punched in, and won't have anything left. But this is America, and they'll let dodgy rounds go. They'll let him take a beating. So I think in that sense, it might be a decision. So I'm going Thurman UD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Paulie?
I think we're going to get a little mini war here, to be honest. I think it might be the best fight of the night, possibly, because they both got really good styles. But I think Thurman will overpower Bundu, if I'm honest. Bundu was able to bash up Lee Purdy and bash up Gavin to an extent, but neither of those guys are anywhere near as relentless or strong as Thurman is, are they?
No.
They're not going to let Bundu come forward and seize the centre of the ring and have it all his own way. I think Thurman will win the fight fairly widely. Won't be easily. I think Bundu will definitely give him a good run for his money, and he'll give him a lot of hard rounds. And maybe there might even be a knockdown or two. But I can't see Thurman finishing Bundu, because I think Bundu's tough and durable. And I don't think Bundu's got the power to really hurt Thurman, unless, Thurman's just got an absolute terrible chin, which you don't really know yet. But I don't see that happening. But I think it will be a really relentless fight, a real scrap, a real old-fashioned slugfest. But I think Thurman will win a wide decision, maybe 9 rounds to 3 or 8 rounds to 4. Bundu will come. He'll give it a really good go. He'll do himself proud, but I just don't think he's got enough to win.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to keep it short, sweet. I'm going to say Thurman by decision. Thanks for listening, guys. Tell us what you think. Tell us who you think.